Okay, so I'm listening to a book called The Power of Habit, and I don't know if I just kind of zoned out for the last half of the book, or if my interests have changed and I didn't really care about the last half of the book. But this second listen of this book is extremely informative. I had to stop and take notes. Because this gets into a lot of even just talking about buying habits. All right. Knowing that a lot of these advertisements and products and just market shifts are managed by creating new habits. And it even goes into depth about the methodologies used. This is also coming right off of that Alan Kay video. Sorry, the title is rather abstract. It's like The Witchness of Ware or something. I'll put a link in the description, I guess. And there's a bit in there that talks about, you could probably Google this. Okay, this is a section of the talk, but it talks about Alan Kay talking about learning, or Alan Kay on learning. And he talks about the tennis method, where you apply less logical function to the process and make it more of a mechanical function, a motor function, rather than thinking about how it's going to happen. And I'm very curious about this because I do want people to use better keyboards. Like, it's confusing as hell to me why people would want to use something that actively injures them and actively slows them down. I mean, QWERTY wasn't designed for it, but at this point we're capable of achieving speeds that shouldn't even be possible. I mean, even something as simple as Dvorak would make a huge difference, and that's literally software. You just right-click, set your keyboard layout to Dvorak, and you're done. Completely free. But the idea that this is something that is extra logical, I guess. It's not a decision-making part of your brain, and inviting familiarity that kind of bypasses that decision-making part of your brain. You know, if I show you something that's incredibly different from what you expect, your expectations are ruined. Never mind. I'm going to try to stop memeing. I'm trying to finish these thoughts. Your expectations are subverted, and your day has been ruined. I can't help myself. Send help. Send help. I'm not okay. Your expectations are subverted, and that creates like almost an offense, like a subconscious offense in you. And it makes you not want to do these things. It makes you want to resist the change. So being able to adapt that, or supplant that, or reduce that delta between what is normal and what people are looking at. There's different ways of doing it. Now, obviously, I created that Emilio design in order to reduce the difference between regular keyboard and the Signum. But, like, this is still some level of marketing, which means I don't really care for it. But I do believe adopting, better keyboards are going to help people. So I don't know if it's okay to supplant or to play on expectations or play on habits, or to use this type of mental study, I guess. It is marketing at some level, but that's like, being nice to people is marketing on some level. So, well, yes, people like me more when I'm nice to them. When I call them names and yell at them, they don't like me. I'm not some kind of weird marketer. I'm not trying to confuse people, not trying to mislead them. So I should be able to be horrible to people, and then if they like me, then I'll know that they truly like me, and it's not because of mind games. This is the conversation I'm having. So my product is good. I know my product is good. I know my product can help people. I know my product has helped people. And I want more people to feel better about getting to the product. And part of that is there is a little bit of a purity factor. If I make a keyboard that is 10 times better, and people are only willing to use a keyboard that is 9 times better, well, I've created something that is bad. Not helpful. I sit here and look at like, what can I, you know what, maybe that's the difference too. I did make this change somewhat gradually, as gradual as I make habits change. So like over the course of a year, I got to that design. And I also have weird bits where I seem to create mechanical habits out of some of these key combinations. A lot of stuff that I do is not normal, and I have to remember not to forget that. When I tell people, well, just change your keyboard layout, try a different one, change this, change that. They don't. It doesn't. It is very difficult for most people to do that, and I am neurally atypical in that regard. So offering people a solution that works for me is not necessarily helpful. In fact, it's actually probably kind of offensive. Thumbs up, guys. Bike vomit described. All right, this is good. This is a good talk. So, I still want to help people, but I don't want to create a product that's so pure that no one uses it. That is directly on the horizon, staring directly into the sun. Because if no one uses it, it's a failure. If no one uses it, it doesn't help people. So I look at that Emilio keyboard that I designed and think like, why? Why not? It is a prototype. Maybe I should just get a cheap run, see if anyone's interested. I mean, I did finish the PCB design. It's kind of quick, but it's done. So I'm trying to think of the different paths I took to arrive at the Signum design, and try to pick one that's kind of in the middle. I also started working on some rhetoric, which doesn't make me feel good, but it does make me laugh. I don't know, maybe I need to get over this. Like it's that keyboard thing. It's like if I've made something that has 10 levels of level 10 of purity and ergos, then to me, see, I'm always kind of an absolutist. It always comes back to that. I was thinking about this earlier, and I'm like, so how different is this keyboard versus the other keyboard, a normal keyboard, a bad keyboard is what I mean to say, and in the context of this habit forming book that I'm listening to, again, The Power of Habit, very, very interesting. I listen to it, and then I'm like trying to have a thought about this with my keyboards. So I pause the video and I'm thinking about it, and I'm like, okay, so from the perspective of these people, they've seen one keyboard their entire lives, and then I plop down in front of them basically it might as well be a Pain 26. The weirdest looking non-keyboard, most unfriendly, most aggressive changes, and I'm like, oh, Troy was aggressive. That's surprising. No, it's not surprising. I don't want to do. Some of it's humor. I don't like doing. I don't want to do sarcasm. But it's just it fits perfectly. I think, oh, Troy did something aggressive, and with Troy did something from 0 to 100%. Hey, why don't you go from 0 to 100%? Why don't you just swing the needle from here all the way over there, and then maybe a little further? Like that's me. Because usually what happens is I swing the needle all the way over, and then I'm like, yes, and then I have some difficulty, and then I dial it back a little bit, and I'm like, all right, this is actually where it probably should be. And I view this as, this is the way I handle myself mostly, and the changes that I make, because I don't do like incremental minor changes. I like to overcorrect and see. I think if you do something at a higher rate, you're more apt to discover issues, and you can dial it back. I don't know, just not good at half doing things, which makes this particularly difficult because I want to make a product that helps people, and I make the product inaccessible so that no one wants it, it doesn't help anyone. I think about Corvus, I like the thumb clusters. Maybe I just need to add thumb clusters to thumb clusters and paddles to the Emilio, or thumb clusters and paddles to the to Corvus. I'm trying to think about these different designs that I've made over the years, and when I actually kind of started diverging. So I guess if people are in the middle, well, no, that's wizardry. I don't want to do that. There's times when people are willing to make bigger changes, and targeting one of those times doesn't seem particularly fair or friendly. There's also the ability to set up frames of the shift, or stages of the shift. If I call Signum 3 keyboard level 4, then that implies that there's a keyboard level 3, 2, and 1. I guess keyboard level 1 would be the normal keyboard. Keyboard level 2 would be, reduced footprint doesn't really help you much, aside from making it so you don't have to deviate your wrist so much in order to operate the mouse. So I guess it would be like keyboard level 3. I can also create different firmwares and probably different printed button caps to match the firmware. And you can graduate from one firmware to another firmware and a different set of keycaps as you begin layering more and using more macros and more of the keyboard's features. Because the more of the keyboard's features you use, the fewer keys you need. And anything that reduces motion is... yeah, I'll go that way. Is going to be helpful. The other thing about this habit book is it's teaching me where I am neurally atypical, where I'm different, where this stuff doesn't have an impact on me, or my inclination is to do the opposite. And to acknowledge that is to understand that that might not necessarily be the best way to advertise something or to provide a product. People want that small incremental change. They want that feeling of familiarity that they get when they build something or get something that has features that remind them, that call back to the original design. What are you doing? So there's things that I can do to not only provide logical familiarity, but I guess emotional familiarity, visual familiarity, even just the coloration can impart that. And I've used, I guess when I think about it from that context, I've used kind of the opposite in order to create an unfamiliarity to express how different the keyboard is. I mean, the Signum 3 is about as different from a keyboard as you can possibly get. It doesn't even have a case. It doesn't have colors. It doesn't have letters. It has less than half of the buttons. Maybe that's the right way to do it. Set up levels. Keyboard level 3. Keyboard level 4. Keyboard level 5 is just the Pain 26. Keyboard level 5 is it's a 30%. Now that is a good point. The reason I don't run a 30%, so that's okay actually. The reason I don't run a 30% is because I ask too many features of my keyboards. I do try to reduce the amount of buttons that I need, and I kind of can't. I could probably lose 2 buttons, maybe 3, off of the 48 that I have now, because I really have a use for all of those buttons. But I do have space on the keyboard that is unassigned on various layers. So it's not that I haven't filled up all the layers, and when I get past a certain number of layers, I have to stop and think about it too much. It becomes unautomatic. And maybe that's a function of just pure practice, but if it's not quick, I'm probably just not going to do it. So if I have to stop and remember that I have to do, thumb this way, thumb that way, hold this key, and then press that, I would rather that be on a closer layer. I would rather that be closer to the surface of the keyboard, or whatever level I'm at that point. Yeah, okay. So it's kind of hard to say. So at least I'm not I do have limits, I should say. If I go too far, I do recognize it, and I do walk it back, and I do wind up trying different things. I had very, very nice logical ways of accessing numbers and symbols on the keyboard. And it was based on my previous experience of, if you reach up and you press the 1, you're going to get a 1 in that position. And if you reach up and press that same button, you're going to get a bang. Or if you press the 2, you're going to get an at. So I figured, why not emulate that by making those numbers easily accessible in the same position? And it was a failure. It didn't work well. It was slow. I had to stop and think about it, and once I thought about it, I knew where to go, but it was just slow. So it wasn't until I came up with mnemonics for the symbols and numpad for the numbers that things started to get at all fast. Because before that, they were not. So I do have limits, I guess, and I do respect those limits, so I should respect the limits of other people. I guess I can't know where those limits are until I start designing, level 2 keyboards and level 3 keyboards. I have that talk, the generations of keyboards. So we can call that second generation, third generation, fourth generation keyboards. The fourth generation of modern keyboards. By William S. Lind. There we are. Okay. Mea culpa. I'll fix it. I'm going to park over here. Okay. All right. Good talking to you guys.